Hey, it's Les for the TV Dudes. This week, I got to talk to Zahn McClarnon, who plays Akecheta on Season 2 of HBO's Westworld. Zahn and I had a great conversation about the trust it takes to work on such a complex and secretive set, what it was like to be a fan of Season 1 and get a role in Season 2, and what he knew when on a show that kept us all guessing. I hope you enjoy.
Hey, Les, how you doing, man?
Doing great.
Good.
Absolutely loved this season of Westworld and Season 1. You were just a standout part of it for so many people.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
You were a fan of the series for Season 1 already when you got the role, were you not?
Oh, yes, definitely. I think it's just phenomenal, writing, storytelling. It's very unique, and I enjoy that kind of television. There's not many programs out there that, are that imaginative and keeps you guessing, and, the storylines are just fantastic. Jonah and Lisa Nolan, thank you very much, everybody.
I know in speaking to Lewis Hurtham that played Peter Abernathy on the show, he kind of knew going in that he was going to play multiple characters, that there would be glitches and robot things to do.
Mm-hmm.
How much were you given in that regard going into playing Akecheta?
Well, just seeing Season 1, and I figured I kind of knew what I was in for. That being said, I didn't get a lot of information of where the storyline was going to go. And it was a very unique and different process of working. But a good way. There was a lot of benefits from it. Jonah and Lisa and Carly Rae, and they gave you as much as you needed to know to go in and hit your mark and do your dialogue, and they give you enough back history and a little bit about what's going on in the future. But a lot of the stuff I'm not quite sure if it's written yet. And I came on as a recurring guest star actor. It didn't, they just don't give you a lot of information. They give you enough, is what I'm trying to say. But it was definitely a unique process to work, and it turned out great. There was nothing negative about it whatsoever. It was just a different way of working. And there's moments where you're kind of expecting, a certain way that they're going to ask you to freeze motor functions, and they kind of asked me to do something a little bit different when I did the scene with Anthony Hopkins, and that was a little bit of a surprise. I didn't quite understand what they wanted me to do, and throughout the night we're shooting the scene, I got a bit more of a grip on it, but those are scary moments, especially if you're working with somebody like, Tony Hopkins, and, was one of my heroes. So, but it all worked out good,
Growing up, I'm sure nobody ever thinks you're going to eventually hit a point in your career where you're opposite Tony Hopkins in a role. But what
Never.
First got you interested in acting?
I was in my 20s and kind of looking for something to do with my life, and I had done some drama stuff in high school, drama class, and it was really never my thing. I was a little bit too shy and didn't like opening up to people very much, and but the seed was planted. It was in all theater stuff in high school, and it wasn't really what I was looking for. But I got a little bit older, 5 years later, in my early 20s, and I always loved the musical Jesus Christ Superstar. Just one of my favorite movies, and my dad had the album, and I knew all the songs on the album, and I listened to it over and over. And in Omaha, Nebraska, they were doing a production of Jesus Christ Superstar at a local community theater. And I saw the ad in the paper, and I just thought, I know all these songs. I'm not a great singer, but I went and, took a risk and auditioned for it. And I got a part as just one of the apostles. Yeah, kind of, in the chorus, kind of in the background. And I think they needed people that were, ethnically ambiguous and had long hair. And so they gave me a job, and we did it like a 6-week run of it. And it was just fantastic. I fell in love with it. I fell in love with being up on stage and, participating in the rehearsals and everything about it, and the audience. And we got a few standing ovations. I just fell in love with it. And I started pursuing acting. Did some local commercials in Nebraska. Found a talent agent out in Nebraska that got me on, some commercials. And then he introduced me to an agent in Los Angeles, and I moved back to LA in the early 90s, and, the rest is history. Just got on the bandwagon, started studying immediately with different coaches, and the guy who got me in the business is John Durbin. John Durbin casts all of Alexander Payne's films, because Alexander Payne is from Omaha, Nebraska. John Jackson is what his stage name is. John introduced me to his agent, who was an actor as well, back in the 80s and 90s. He still works as an actor, but he got me into the business and was kind enough to open some doors for me when I got out to Los Angeles. And I was quite young, and people took some risks on me and took some chances, and I started working pretty quickly.
I mean, I keep seeing articles talking about the very much so amazing couple of years you've had recently, but you've been steadily on my television since the 90s.
Yeah.
Do you feel like the roles have changed, or being on set has changed in that span of time as television has kind of undergone a drastic change, both in distribution and just in terms of prestige?
Mm-hmm. Well, specifically, I think it's changed for Native American actors. I think the doors are keep opening up for us, and you got better storytelling, and you've got Native writers that are involved in these storylines and that are writing good material, and from our perspective, and also the producers of the shows and the directors are all listening to us in our recommendations, and we're bringing on Native consultants to help us and to guide these productions through these storylines. And I think in that way, Hollywood has opened up quite a bit. I still have a ways to go. I think we need more Natives involved in, as directors and writers, and telling our own stories from our own perspective. But I think it's come a long way in the last 30 or 40 years, and they're hiring Native people to do these roles. They're hiring Indigenous people to do these roles, and I think that brings a lot to these different characters, especially if you grew up in your culture. You're just bringing a different nuance to these characters, and from your experience of growing up in the culture. I think we have a ways to go yet, but it's definitely gotten a lot better.
Now, in Westworld, it's Lakota, but not. It's the ghost. One of the things I love about the whole show is occasionally remembering that this isn't a period piece Western. This is a future set Western theme park. And
exactly.
And the same thing goes
fictionalized tribe.
Exactly. And the same thing goes for the Ghost Nation tribe. I know you've played Comanche on other shows that have had consultants. Was it freeing, or was it odd to be playing something that is sort of Lakota but also sort of made up for the park?
Sure. I mean, in the first season, the Ghost Nation, so much in the background. There's these dark, kind of shadowy characters, throughout the season. And, again, it's an entirely fictionalized tribe from Dr. Ford's mind. It's kind of what these a Caucasian person, a European person would think and make up the stereotypical, savage tribe, and it's coming from his mind. So you can look, you kind of go from that perspective, so you kind of get around those stereotypes. It's already stereotyped, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That because it's coming from his mind, so you're able to, it kind of frees it up a little bit. But them choosing that language, Lakota language, I think was important. The language is more known than most languages. There's more probably speakers that speak fluent Lakota than a lot of tribes. The other one would be Navajo or Dene. They call themselves Denes. But I think it was a courageous choice that the filmmaker, the TV, Jonah and Lisa and Carly Rae took that risk of putting the whole thing in the language, and taking that risk, and who knew how the audience would perceive having to read subtitles throughout the whole episode. But I think it was mandatory, and I think it shows that people, are willing to do that, and I think it was a great choice for them to do that. But coming from them Ghost Nation being that stereotypical native thing that we grew up with, the John Ford movies, and I was able to separate that from knowing that these characters came from a mind. It's Westworld, just exactly what you said. It's just it's a theme park, and this is what a European person would put out there in this theme park, their images of the natives, and then we go into the Akecheta, episode 8, where we explore that character Akecheta and where he comes from, and I just think it was just a courageous effort and risk to do so, and it came over very well. People liked it. And I was very fortunate to be a part of it.
It almost took me a moment to realize, I think it was the second time I watched the episode, that I realized that it's also you that is kind of courting Logan to purchase the park in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
As far as scheduling of shooting and what you as an actor knew about your character, do you remember kind of where you were when you were doing that scene? How much did you know about what would be revealed yet of the Ghost Nation?
That was actually probably, I think it was the first scene that I shot on season 2, if I remember correctly. And no, I didn't know very much. Jonah and Lisa, they work in a different way. I'm not quite sure how they work with the other actors, to be honest with you, and how much Jeffrey or the rest of the cast, what kind of material they get. I'm sure they get pretty full scripts and timelines, but I was given little pieces, basically. I'm not quite sure why they go about that process, but, there was nothing negative about it. It was all positive. So I didn't have a lot of information when I walked onto that set. Carly Rae, the one of the writers, and Jonah and Lisa would just pull me aside and kind of try to explain to me what's going on. And you take that information and, you try to integrate it into your process, and I mean, I knew the basics. I understood that who this Logan was, and I understood that I was selling him a prototype of the robot, and I understand it was in the past. So you just kind of take that information and do the best job you can.
Do you think being a fan from season 1, just as a viewer, helped you establish that level of trust?
Sure. Yeah. I enjoyed the first season quite a bit, and just to be a part of working with these people at that level, and how imaginative they are, and it was a wonderful process. There was just nothing but positivity from it. But yeah, you take everything you possibly can from your you're watching season one and everything that they're giving you in the moment. Trying to be honest as possible with it. Because, it's television. You kind of, you do your little rehearsal, you do your blocking, and you work. You start rolling, and you do it a few times, and you don't have a lot of time to process everything. It was definitely a unique way of working, but they gave me enough. They never, I wasn't going in completely blind to everything.
The shows that you've done recently, the Sun, Longmire, Fargo, have all been things that I would consider prestige TV.
Yes.
Just really class act shows.
Yes.
But you've been working long enough, and I know you don't get to pick your projects. You audition for everything. You take sometimes what you get.
Yeah.
What about these characters and stories particularly grip you? Have you had favorite things or a theme that you've kind of noticed across your career? I like playing these kinds of roles.
Yeah. So it was a few years back. I did an interview. I can't remember. I think it was for SAG, for the Native Actors within the Screen Actors Guild, and we did a little short. And one of the questions I was asked is being able to playing the love interest. I'm a bit older. I'm in my 50s now, but I think that I've covered just about everything that I've wanted to do. I'm sure there's characters out there that I haven't tapped into, and I want to, but I think that the love story was a big thing for me in getting to be involved in a love story, and so I think I've kind of covered everything that I've always wanted to do. But it's just these kind of shows like Fargo and Westworld and Longmire. These are the projects that I want to be a part of. You just know good writing when you see it. There's not a lot of stuff out on television that it's getting better and better. You got the streaming and Netflix and Amazon, and a lot of good stuff is coming out, and there's new content and new characters. They're making different types of heroes, and I think TV is going somewhere that I don't think anybody really expected to go, and these audiences are opening up to it, and they enjoy it, and people are smart. They want smart storytelling. They don't want the same old cliches over and over. And I've been really fortunate to be a part of a few of these shows that have met my standard of television, and it's just I'm blessed, fortunate to be a part of them.
Well, I was absolutely thrilled to see you have a bigger role this season, or how your role expanded across this season of Westworld, and episode 8 was just absolutely stunning. So yeah, kudos to everybody involved.
Yes, it takes a village, man.
Can't thank you enough for your time today. Really, really wonderful talking to you. Do you have any projects coming up next that you're excited about?
Yeah, we're working on some stuff right now. There's some there's a couple things going on in the future. There's nothing done or signed or anything like that, but some great opportunities have arisen because of the last few years, and we'll see what happens, and keep everybody posted on those things. I appreciate your time.
Thank you so much. The list of shows, to your credit, whatever gets to add next to the list is lucky.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Have a wonderful day.
All right.
Bye.
The TV Dudes is an independently run podcast and a member of the Electric Sweater Podcast Network. We are exclusively listener-supported. If you'd like to help us out, go to patreon.com/tvdudes. You can like us on Facebook and Twitter at TV Dudes. All the music for our show is by our friend and original TV dude, Gregory J. Amani Smith. To find out more about us, go to thetvdudes.com and electricsweater.com. I'm Grant Davis. Thanks for listening.